That's a nice buck. Look at that thing. I'll have to look around for the match for a little bit, but I gotta keep hunting. That's awesome. Nice mature buck, lots of knurling. Live in a chaos house. House full of chaos. 7 kids, and they're at that age where they attack everything. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Where are these owners? When are they coming to get them? I think they're eating normal cat food now, so it should be just a matter of time, right? Or the family's gonna come home to a bunch of pillowcases made out of kitten hides. Kidding? Now, what do we got? Oops, podcast I was listening to. Listen to Sean Ryan podcast this morning while doing my stuff this morning. I think he's number 4 in the world most popular podcast right now. He's doing a good job, and he's also spreading a lot of truth, which is good, with backed up facts. Now, I don't know what happened yesterday, but YouTube's a little upset with me for something that was in yesterday's video. I don't know what it is. It was some kind of a warning. They didn't take it down, but I got some kind of a warning. I didn't really look into it. And I also had a bit of a wave of hate mail too. Same time. Kind of odd, right? I wonder what's up. What chord did we strike this week? I don't even know. We shared so many emails, talked about so many topics. I don't know. I guess we're back in the target of somebody again, I guess. Oh well. But anyway, not much to say on that, so let's just keep going and keep more voices being heard, alright? Listen to this. Now, this is titled, What Are They? Dear Steve, I hope this finds you and your loved ones well. I am unsure as to whether or not this is the correct email for sharing our stories. If it's not, I'm truly sorry. All good. Excuse me. I was just watching one of your round table of knowledge videos in which you read an email about a massive dog-like creature killing 9 guard dogs and a tactical team deployment. Excuse me, I just had something to eat. Granted, this is not one of our stories. Perhaps one day my husband and I will sit down and write out our experiences. This, however, isn't the time. Please use only my first name, as my husband's family is rather prominent in our area, and we are still testing the waters on this subject, so to speak. I'm writing about the various forms of the creatures in question. I recall one person who wrote in and stated that the Save spelling, it's actually S-A-B-E, not S-A-V, were depicted in Michelangelo's painting of the Sistine Chapel. I've yet to verify that, but I'm still working on it. I was raised with the knowledge that these creatures, as well as UFOs, are figments of Satan's imagination. Please bear with me on this. Given the fact that he is the king of deception, it makes sense. That's not to say that they aren't real. Not at all. Quite the contrary, as evidenced by the vast amount of mankind having seen these entities in various forms. What brought all this to mind while watching a video was history. If you think about this dog-like creature and the Egyptian god Anubis, then the thought of these being figments of Satan's imagination makes sense. Satan being master of the false gods and deceiving them about being a god, only in his prideful dreams. God created mankind. I find it impossible to believe that there are aliens. Why would he create man, then woman from his rib, only to create beings so inhuman? That makes no sense. This also reaffirms that figment idea. All of this, in my opinion, of course, or in the words of a great man, take it for what you will or leave it. I guess my point is that, obviously, we are living in apocalyptic times. It is quite apparent that Satan has been unleashed, if for no other reason than the despicable things being done to children these days. Agreed. I know that I and many others have been exceedingly naive to a great many horrifying truths. Ignorance is not bliss. Neither is knowing sometimes, hence the club of no return. After all, you can't unring a bell. I merely write this to give another perspective that may be applied to the puzzle. If knowledge is power, then the more we have, the stronger we'll be, correct? Now I'm rambling, lol. Rambling's good, it gets the shit flowing. Anyway, just because something is a figment of the devil's imagination doesn't mean it's any less real. Obviously, it's just saying that we need to proceed with extreme caution, as mythologically, Anubis was exceedingly ruthless. So then these are possibly the description of evil being most accurate. I can't say for certain that there aren't good Sabe, again spelling. Simply put, I pray that people are not deceived by these things. The potential outcome of that could be eternally devastating. It all just means that we must pray fervently, for the grace to overcome ourselves and love God's will. This will give us the wisdom we desperately need. None of us know for certain what these things are, nor where they come from. However, we do know that our government is obviously guided by evil, so it stands to reason that they would come in, destroy, remove, and threaten, in essence, when something like this happens. Another thought, does their ability to disappear stem from the fact that they are a figment of his imagination, rather than due to being vastly more powerful than ourselves? My apologies for the roundabout way in which I come to my conclusion. And you thought you could ramble. Ha, surprise. Someone who can ramble even more. I don't know. We could have a little competition on that. Again, these are my own beliefs. I'm in no way perfect. I've been known to be wrong a few times. Okay, several over the course of my life. I just thought I'd share in the event that it helps put something into perspective for someone somewhere. Yes, we have had experiences with the Sabe. My husband more so than myself, and I can honestly say I have no desire to see one. I have noticed lately that they seem to be encroaching nearer to our home. Tree knocks, and the fact that our youngest son and I, a few months back, had the exact same feeling on the same night. It was the presence of pure evil. And none of our dogs would step foot outside. Not his, not ours. We both have dogs that have taken on cougar and bear. So what was it? I mean, to make a dog that has never shown fear, has always been aggressively protective, and turned into a pansy. Top that off with our son and I both having a feeling that something purely evil was near enough that we could hear it. I still get chills thinking about it. Then there's the sound my husband and I heard last summer while attempting to reach a wildfire so we could try to nip in the bud. It was creepy, strange, and comical. I I know, not a combination of words normally used together. It started out like a wolf howl, went to a coyote yip, then to a screech owl, and gradually became higher pitched and ended with a hoo. And not a who like an owl, a who, like it was said, spoken. Who. But in an almost joking manner. Our dogs just stared, not making a move or a sound. Neither of us felt frightened or concerned. We looked at each other smiling, and I said, "What the heck was that?" My husband just said, "I don't know." I honestly couldn't say how long it lasted, but it wasn't short. A week or so prior to that, we reached the top of the steep part of our trail when my dog started to lunge towards something we couldn't see. My husband simply stated that he felt it was a good time to head back, and that was fine by me. He told me that all his life there was one section of woods where he hunted that left him with an uneasy feeling. Not really scared or like he was in danger, just unnerving. He's been hunting that area for 50 years almost, and he's gotten that feeling every single time he's reached that spot. He described it all to me as we made our way toward the fire, and I tell you, I definitely felt uneasy myself. I didn't really care for that feeling. But putting the fire out was more important. But after that sound, neither of us felt strange going up there. I did, however, say aloud that we were not there to infringe or mess with it, that we just wanted to try to put out the fire. That was the night we heard the sound. I think he was letting us know that we were all right to go through there. There are several more experiences we've had, but this has been long enough. After all, I wasn't initially going to write about those anyway. Take care, God bless, and enjoy the beautiful outdoors. We do, sincerely. Gotcha, save your name. There you go. You may be onto something. There's going to be people nodding their head in absolute agreement with what you are throwing down, and some people are going to be shaking their head with absolute not a chance, right? But it definitely is something to chew on and think about, right? For sure. One thing for certain everybody should by now, you would think, be able to agree with the fact that, yeah, our governments are being ran by the evil. There's no way of denying that. It doesn't matter who you support or not in a vote right now by personality. It doesn't have anything to do with a certain person. It's the fact that all of our governments are absolutely corrupt right now and are filled with and being ran by criminals. It's in our faces every single day, and that's not anything that we should even remotely be divided on. It's very frustrating. It's a very, very frustrating for me personally to watch daily, hear about, have stuff forwarded to me nonstop. It's very, very frustrating. It's mind-boggling when you try to govern yourself with common sense, using your gut instincts, never following, never jumping on a bandwagon, figuring out shit for yourself, seeing straight and clear. And you wonder why so many people can't. And then you start wondering why nobody can do anything. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, unnerving, troubling to witness and basically be a part of in this lifetime, right? Evil is definitely very, very real. Evil is very real. And there is 110% an assault on our children today. It's been ramping up the past few years, has it not? It's very troubling, very upsetting. On that note, you should possibly, if you can, look up the Sean Ryan Show podcast. He's on YouTube for the time being. He really dove deep into the assault on our children in his talks. And he mentioned today that there are literally thousands upon thousands of people yanking their children out of the public school system and homeschooling them. Thank God. That means there's going to be hope, right? Who can ramble now? Who's got the rambling trophy? All right, I'll shut my mouth. We're on the same page with a lot. And I appreciate you writing in. I hope you and your husband write in with what you have witnessed, felt, seen, heard. I don't care. Just get it out, share it out loud, all right? This is the place to do it. One of them. I'm sure there's some other ones, but this is the best one I know of so far. And be safe out there. Make sure you write back in. Now, another voice. You know, it's funny, I have this whole long weekend myself, and it's almost tempted to go to a real creepy place tonight with Ruby and hang out all night long, maybe, possibly. Okay, sorry, that's more rambling. This is titled The Weird Woods. Dear Steve, feel free to use my name, Joseph Lester. I call the woods I routinely travel the weird woods, but inexplicable totally works for me, so I travel them every chance I get. These woods are almost always dead silent. Whenever I'm there, I always leave a hefty pinch of American Spirit tobacco in some place people can't find it, paying my admission fee. Wednesday I was in there and I thought it strange to this day all the normal forest sounds were there. Almost never does that happen in this place. 3 unmarked Black Hawk choppers started circling, and it finally made sense. Sincerely and respectfully, Joseph Lester. That sounds a little odd. That sounds a little odd. I haven't witnessed that yet. I've had a lot of helicopters, but not the military ones. And I'm curious to know if your tobacco is being taken as well. That'd be an interesting note for everybody, I'm sure. This one's titled, quote, not a bear, end quote. Use my name if you want, Jesse Wood. I know you don't care for pictures, but please try to discredit this. It's not an obscure face in the bushes, it's right out in the open. Examine it thoroughly. Please, please share this for all the people to see. Alrighty. Bit of a goofy, somehow this photo looks familiar to me right now. I seen this thing somewhere recently. Ooh, discredited. Well, it's a photograph, first off. Does that resemble what has been described to us as a Sasquatch? To me? Not really. Sort of. Obviously, very long and arms a lot longer than ours in proportion to our torso and legs, but big gnarly bear kneecaps never been reported to me yet that I know of. That is an absolute chimpanzee mouth, nose, and cheek look to it. To me, it's, I don't know, how do you discredit a photo? I don't know, how do you credit or discredit any photo these days? Do I think that is a live Sasquatch? Myself, my gut saying, who made this? And if they had another thing too, you gotta admit, if somebody pulled off a photograph of this being alive with a man, and they're both obviously posing for the camera, I'm pretty certain they were going to take more than one photo. Either of these two looking at each other, shaking hands, jumping up and down, moving around, getting the being to spin around, hold his hands up in the air. It's like, okay, man, you got to think about it. Common sense tells me if you had access to some kind of a being like this, and you could coerce it, talk it into standing in front of a camera for a cool posed on photograph, you're going to work that camera. I know that. Being the man who loves to be on the backside of the camera, I'm going to work that camera. I'm going to take pictures of his feet. I'm going to close-ups of his finger, his eyeballs. Show me your teeth. Put your arms up in the air. Spread your arms as wide as you can. Jump in the air as high as you can. You know, I'm going to work that subject and the camera until there's just nothing left I can come up with anymore. Instead of just one chikunk. So that's one point that my common sense and my gut screams at me. But in the meantime, this thing does not have rippling, chiseled muscles. It does not have defined thigh muscles. It does not have what we think would be hair. Me personally, although whatever I think shouldn't matter to anybody, because I don't give a shit what anybody thinks, myself is, nope, sorry, doesn't pass my smell test. But I'll share it. Share it, man. Thanks for sending it in. I could be wrong. I've been wrong about a lot in life, trust me. But you can't be right until you're wrong. More. About much. Alright. What else do we got? Mark this as red. I don't know what it was then, but I do now. Is the title. Hi, Steve. First, I have to say something about people who feel compelled to be bullies on social media. If they don't like your intros, fast forward. If they don't like you taking off your glasses when talking to the camera, don't look. If you don't agree with the subject matter, don't go to your channel. My name is Rolene. My husband has watched your channel forever and got me hooked on it a few years ago. God, it's been years now? Isn't that bizarre? It's been years? That seems so weird to me. It seems like yesterday we started reading emails out publicly. Sorry. My husband has watched your channel forever and got me hooked onto it a few years ago. We even got matching mugs. The Club of No Return. Oh, right on. My story happened way back in the 70s. I was in elementary school or middle school. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember the screams I heard. My grandparents and I went to Bastrop State Park in Texas for quite a few summers. I loved going there for the very big rope hanging from the very tree that I could swing on and jump off into the river. My granny hated me doing that because she was afraid that I'd fall or drown. My granddad, however, wanted to toughen me up, lol, so he would swing me as high as possible. I loved it. This one particular summer, I remember that it was hotter than usual, so I wanted to swing more often. My granddad was off fishing, so I badgered my granny to go with me to swing. She finally did. As we walked the dirt path through the tall trees, I heard a very loud scream that lasted what seemed like a minute or two. You know how long that is for a scream? That's a year. I looked at my granny, and she looked at me and said, "Sounds like someone's already there." Not to be deterred, I insisted we keep going because it was hot and I wanted to swing. Reluctantly, she agreed, and on we walked. About 5 minutes later, we got to the swing. No one was there. I remember how still the water was, no ripples or waves from anyone jumping into the water. I also remember how quiet the forest was. As I sat on the rope and started swinging, another scream came. I remember at first I was scared, but then, for whatever reason, I started laughing and screamed back as loudly and as long as my lungs would allow. I don't know if that was a smart thing to do or not, but after that, I didn't hear any more screams for the rest of the weekend. I did, however, feel like I was being watched, and not just by my granny. Even though it was several decades ago, there are certain things my mind remembers. That, my friend, was unforgettable. Thank you for reading this and keep up the great channel of sharing. Thanks for sending that in. The channel isn't great without you and all the other people like you. Keep that in note. Right, Texas, and you mentioned the area. So, if that was a common occurrence or somebody else had something go down around there, they're going to chime in. They're going to chime in for sure. Either in the comment section below or they're going to email me. Without a doubt. That's usually how it goes here, right? Usually how it goes. Excuse me. Holy doodles, this is a freaking long one. Should I do it? Oh my god, it's like, it is huge. Alright, I'm going to go for it. Here we go. Steve. This is titled, "You Do the Math / Critical Analysis from an Investigator." Steve, the work you're doing needs to be addressed for what it's worth to all people. I've watched your videos for such a long time that I put together a more concise piece which includes all you've been saying and continue to stress, to warn the public and to help those who are hurting from their encounters with the Sasquatch. I'm in the middle of watching your latest video titled, quote, "Its eyes were too wide for a bear," end quote, shown on the YouTube channel, The Round Table of Knowledge. One commenter made an astute observation which spurred me to write the following piece. Within this piece, I've added my own observations and experiences to highlight what I've seen with my own eyes. I should serve to answer your constant questions of why the government do not reveal to the public that these beings exist and the potential danger they pose to human life. If people were to realize just how many there are of these beings in any given place, say in a heavily forested state such as Ohio, for instance, they might take pause and reconsider their plans for going at it with any of them. They might also realize that the government might be doing all they possibly can to head off any potential conflicts between humans and these Sasquatch, which would touch off a full-scale war between the two. It has happened before, between my own tribe, joined by other tribes in Ohio, and it all happened before the Europeans invaded this continent. that war took place between the Little Miami and the Great Miami River in southwest Ohio. Prior to the tribes combining to fight this menace, the Indians were losing and being eaten when food for these giants ran out. This is from the oral history of my tribe, the Shawnee. The giants enslaved the humans to procure food for them, which might have gotten started from Indians befriending the giants, thinking it might be a good thing to be associated with them. It's what tribes do, forming associations with other tribes for mutual benefit, but at some point it turned into a situation where the Indians were at a disadvantage. Maybe the natives were feeding them in order to appease them and keep them from taking what they needed. We are hearing from some humans now that the Sasquatch are mindful of the resources in any given area, so they are careful not to take more than they need to create a situation where they and the land suffer famine. They might have learned from their mistakes and adjusted so there would not be conflict with humans in the future. But as they got more numerous in the land and are drawn to human habitations, livestock, and yes, even fast food aromas and dumpsters, it's clear that they are making their homes closer and closer to humans all the time. I'm not saying the government tactics are reasonable or fair to the humans involved, quite the opposite. I'm just saying it's a very tense situation in which we're all dealing with a life form which can annihilate humans from the face of the earth once they get it in their minds to do so. In order to keep the peace, it's probably best for humans not to know what's going on and to let the authorities handle it. However, that being said, local law enforcement up to the state highway patrol are not in the loop. Our local, state, and even federal politicians, including the president and military, are not in that loop either. I'm not making this assertion lightly, Steve, but from a background of being a child investigator at the side of my father who was being called upon in his capacity outside official channels as, shall I say, someone the authorities called when they could not do something in an official capacity and needed a very bad man with very bad friends to look into it for them. I watched them pay him a great deal of money to do so for them. Dad and these men were not the sort you would ever want to mess around with lightly. And that some didn't try. Not that some didn't try, but they lost when faced with the reality that Dad and his men were more than met the eye. They were organized crime and law enforcement, as well as government regularly use such men to do things that the taxpayer voters won't allow the government to do because it would allow them too much power over the people. So, those who do administrate over and are the authority with the Sasquatch are up above the president, having been put there by what appears to be Dwight D. Eisenhower and a group called MJ-12, or Majestic, made up of top scientists and others at the top of their game in these United States. The men who deal with law enforcement, who always show up with and without their own military, without U.S. insignia on their camo, or white one-piece white chemical suits, are always Americans and appear to have had military training. It's clear to everyone watching that they didn't have one clue as to how to fell trees, or how to do it safely without killing one another. My family and many law enforcement officers stood watching them clear-cut a farmer's land one day, and we all thought it would surely result in every squad being called out to save their lives. They just all walked onto this hillside with abandon and began cutting trees right and left, felling them across one another and nearly hitting each other in the bargain. It was nuts. The cops were telling the guys in the black suits wearing sunglasses that they had to stop that and at least do it safely, but they had very little time and didn't want the public to see what they were doing. Only this took place in sight of the frickin' 4-lane highway, yet it was very early in the day yet for much traffic on that road. Around the same time, the same group of men came by with stake trucks and removed that farmer's small herd of pigs. They roughed the man up. The cops tried to make them stop, saying that it wasn't necessary, and for their trouble, the military, with those men in black suits, aimed their rifles at the cops, making them back up and shut up while they continued to rough up that old farmer and put the fear of God into him. These men in suits needed to get the message to that farmer, loud and clear, that if he said anything except what they told him to say, he would disappear or worse. The man was scared. We were all scared watching this and realized right then that the cops could could not do a thing against these people. It became very clear that whoever these guys in black suits were, they had the power, in their own minds at least, that they could do whatever they pleased, even to killing American citizens on their own land at their own discretion, and no one could do a damn thing about it. Unless it was a tight community of armed men and women. Then you could do something about it. No one, up to the governor of Ohio, could verify these men's credentials. Our state congressional representative nor senator had a clue who they were, and up to the federal level, our senator and representative to the U.S. Congress didn't know and could not find out. Then we found out from contact with actual military personnel out of an air base in Ohio who showed up at Burr Oak State Park that they didn't know who these men were either. Well, you might realize, from all that we'd seen personally with our own eyes, that no one in power in the entire United States knew who these guys were, nor could anyone verify they had any power at all to do what they did to citizens or the military, the highest authority in the land at that point in that park. So, who the hell are they? That's what Dad and his men asked to find out, since everyone in authority could not just walk into areas of state and federal parks in Ohio, as well as a current metro park, to investigate without a court order. This is a matter of national security. You see? Why, you might ask. What are they doing at these locations? Who are they? These places in our state and federal parks are being used by huge research labs. The forest rangers have snuck in as far as they can to those areas to find out what they did, and then told Dad. What we saw when we were led into secure areas by forest rangers was evidence that men in camo with automatic rifles come out of the bushes to aim live weapons at I and my family and our station wagon. We were used for cover. Dad told us not to be afraid, and that they would not shoot us. He would not allow it, and that all would be okay. We were not so sure of that, seeing these men armed to the teeth right in front of our car, aiming those guns at we kids. I remember we were all screaming, and Dad told us all it'd be okay, and he talked with them. They were about to handcuff him and take him away, and we all began to scream and cry because we feared what else they'd do to him, and how it would leave us in danger with him gone from us. We were young. I thought it was wrong of Dad to do this to us. I get it now why he felt he had to do it. The truth had to be known in order to keep a great deal more people safe and to see who these people were as far as we could determine it. One of my brothers got into a location with other teen boys near our home, while Dad, his guys, and their wives and children at the back gate to this research facility were kept busy by them being irate, tugging at the gate and fence while waving protest signs. It worked, and Chuck got in there and took a couple photos. An eyewitness account to what he'd seen, which was clearer than the photos to prove what was going on in that place. Through all our efforts and public outcry to the state news, we got that place shut down twice. The first time they faked it, but the second time they completely left, and the gate was left open to prove it to anyone who might go up there. My husband and I went up there while we were dating to watch the stars through I suspected was more in his mind than that. He was testing the boundaries to see if anything would shake out was what he was doing, and did inform me I was used as cover. He'd worked undercover for the feds before. What we learned from that incident that night was that they still had men in camo with automatic rifles guarding the place who set upon us like a flea on a dog, so fast it made our heads spin. There was no place that guy had in which he could have hidden from us on that hillside. The incident, and two others, tells me right now that the Sasquatch are not the only ones using cloaking. This lab had it too. That lab is a very well-known one who has and continues to do black projects for the U.S. government. The same lab has labs not only in that one park, but in most of our state and national park areas of Ohio. The reports of the men in black suits and the military guys is always the same, no insignia on their uniforms. I need to tell you at this point that this is not all the men in black suits. This is not all the men in black suits have been seen doing in West Virginia and Southern Ohio in the past 15 years. It's disturbing and very telling that the deep corruption on the part of the FBI and DOJ of late being reported all over the media and Fox and others online is real. How are the men in black suits associated with that corruption? And is this where they derive their above the president and Congress power from? I've been involved with that lab since I was very young, one of their victims, and as such, I've seen the men in black suits. I've been hurt physically by them. I've been held at gunpoint in my own city as a private free citizen, not in any trouble with the law. They wanted something that only I could give them, but I was just able to identify one of the women involved in one incident as a former worker of the Department of Defense. She's retired now. But as soon as she became a friend to an international UFO researcher in Louisiana that I've known for years, that man stopped talking to me when I outed her to him as forcing me into a van one day surrounded by a whole bunch of men in black suits, and she held a gun on me to make me get into the van. Once they helped me out of that van, she demanded I take a little blue pill, lay down next to a tree in a nearby city park, and go to sleep as they sat nearby watching to make sure I did so. I got up and ran once. They drove off, not realizing they were still there. I got to the shelter house where two women were doing a summer program with area kids. I sat down and she was right behind me with her handgun pointed at me. In full view of both women, she handed me another pill and ordered me to swallow it. The woman there gave me a bottle of water which allowed me to hide that pill in my cheek so I wouldn't swallow it. I wasn't taking shit, but I had to play it cool like I was doing it so I didn't disappear or get killed. This woman was so brazen. Who the hell was she? She did identify herself to that international UFO researcher on Facebook as former Department of Defense. So that's how I now know what that woman was about and who was behind those times. I do remember them making me get into a big white panel van to ask me questions and get answers. I feel safe enough telling you this much. I think I've told you more about this in previous emails I've sent to you for your eyes only. In one, I think I had enough of this crap and that day, and did tell you my name and that I'd be tortured by these people and experimented on in their lab. I even stated that the name and location of that lab. This is not without great risk to my life, but I'm old now, my health is growing worse, and well, the world is going to shit lately in a huge way, looking like it's not going to get any better ever. So, it's the perfect time to come out and be known for who I am. I was tired of hiding what happened to me, yet I had told key people in my life to try and gain some support. It's damaged me, and I won't lie about that part. It's hurt me badly, and much of my memories of what they did to me are still resurfacing today. That people need to know. It's not just they deserve to know, no. They need to know for their own safety, as far as they might be able to protect themselves and other fellow human beings. There will be a conflict on a big scale between these Sasquatch and humans in civilized areas. Armed conflict involving heavy armament has been taking place out west, where Sasquatch are being fought within wilderness areas. Military who are involved in it have been telling people about it as much as is safe for them to do so online on Facebook. It does not stay up long in the groups before the posters remove it. Some have leaked videos taken in choppers, which appears to be consistent with film used in the past by the military, probably suggesting that someone of some age helped take those videos at a time in the 60s or 70s in the United States. But it's clear that whoever the leakers were, they were in military choppers, and it clearly shows in them, that these Sasquatch are there in huge numbers, lined up in broad daylight along a cliff face where the forest comes to the edge. They are as tall as the trees, meaning maybe in the 20-foot range, and there's a bunch of them. The reports are that the military have been killing them, and you can see in frame they're using large armaments to do so. Now, a lot of military men in the frame down in the flat areas below these cliffs, you can see large rocks or logs being thrown off the cliff from these giants. Those giants. Do I doubt that's actually happened? No, I don't. None of the films are professional grade for movies or such. There's no way anyone would have used it for movies or TV shows in the past. It appeared to be degraded as if stored improperly, but the clothing and other things in the chopper and down in that flatland areas is consistent with it being from the 60s and 70s at least. This is a mouthful, right? I've been out west where we traveled near the Grand Canyon, the Four Corners region, and it went on like this for days traveling in our personal car. I could feel whenever Sasquatch were near, and it was like being pushed out all the time. I've gotten the willies feeling from them in other areas on the outskirts of cities like Las Vegas and Los Angeles. There are small towns or villages in CA where I felt them as well. I'm not a sensitive individual, but when I'm going along with the wind blowing in my hair, I easily disconnect from the world. But when it hits me out of the blue to get the hell out of someplace, my body does so before my mind engages, that's significant. I take that very seriously to understand what could have caused me to do that. When I stop and look around to see nothing which could have remotely caused that to be felt by me. It irks me that something is able to manipulate me like that without my control. There's another reason why it's not exactly for the public to know everything the government knows, but at least the men in black suits don't need to be so cruel to the public as they've been. They are worse than what I'd call a-holes. The police and military call them Nazis because of how they act towards citizens and show no respect at all to law enforcement. For what we call staties, State Highway Patrol, to be treated like that by these men in black suits is There's some dogs barking. Is unconscionable. Those men deserve our respect, but these men in black suits get up in their faces and menace them with full impunity. So who the hell are these guys anyway? All we know and found out through organized crime was that they are attached to these labs doing black projects for the government. They openly menace active duty military and at least one general who was at, Burr Oak. That man wasn't taking their crap and demanded they prove their authority to them. Did they do it? The situation grew worse, so that both sides were forced to work together to drive back a force of probably around 30 young Bigfoot males in the 10-foot range on average. They're causing havoc at Burr Oak. That general gave an order to fire above these Sasquatches' heads with dud mortars up to the forest so to drive them back and scare them off, but they kept coming back. You could hear them getting really angry in the forest down by the marina that day. We were hiding beside our station wagon and being protected by forest rangers who were told the military and these men in blacks, military men, would handle it. That area was closed for weeks after, and the top camping area where it all began was closed from then on. It was over a decade later when it was reopened, and when we went back to check it out, there was a weird feeling about the area. It wasn't an inviting feeling, like something really bad had taken place there, almost like a lot of people lost their lives there. It was eerie, so we left. I want to add to this email my reply to a comment of one of your viewers. Me Met Polat said to you, Steve. That's M-E-H-M-E-T, capital P-O-L-A-T, said to you, Steve. Quote, sharing is caring. Only similar-minded people will understand. Thank you for caring and investing in us, end quote. I want to expand upon what he said to highlight what people need to understand. Some need it to be spelled out to them, and well, it won't hurt for you to realize what it is you're doing and the impact it's having on everyone. You need to be told. He, Steve, is investing a lot of time and trouble into us all, and the subject, isn't he? I wonder if a lot of the viewers appreciate what he's giving up and what his family is giving up for him to do this. I know that for those of us who've experienced these things, it means a great deal to helping us feel more accepted and sane for having gone through this. Does Steve realize what he's giving all of us who are hurting from this? I like how you commented, Mehmet, sorry, I can't pronounce that, Polat, quote, sharing is caring, end quote. But the last half of that statement is most important, right? Quote, only similar-minded people will understand, end quote. You hit the nail on the head with that statement. Those who have never seen them or experienced them really have no clue how being one who has changes one's whole world view and flips our world upside down. Amen. And that's putting it lightly. It affects everything in your life, and I'm sure that profound change which occurred in Steve's life from the same thing happening to him is what caused him to do all this. I'm sure many derive a whole lot of enjoyment from these videos for one reason or another, from seeing the wildlife, great scenery and beauty, For others, that escapes them and they're watching for the thrills of hearing about Sasquatch like it's a great myth come to life. Still others are surely watching with the intent of going out into the wilds on their own to hunt them and have their own experiences. I appreciate that these emails contain the raw truth of the matter, and that is that they're not to be trifled with, not to be presumed to be innately friendly or even approachable with any safety. To sum it all up completely, as one of my brothers did one day when he saw the biggest one in our valley, who knew King Kong was really real. We all stopped and cracked up the look on his face and this forceful declaration, but then we stopped laughing abruptly to face the truth. There was a frickin' 16-foot, human-looking, massively built, hairy man with no clothes on in the field, not but about 30 feet from where we were all standing in our living room. We all stopped laughing. I looked around the room at everything, thinking how blessed I was to be surrounded by 3 bigger brothers and my dad, and how very small I felt in comparison to them, but how very small all of us combined we were compared to the massiveness of that thing out there. No one and nothing can prepare you for such an experience. But for those who have never experienced these things at all, it must seem like pure fantasy, not possibly real. And this is what we all struggle with, who have seen them close enough to hear them breathing. It's like listening to a huge bellows being pumped. Their intake of air just standing still is, and I hate overusing the word, but yes, massive. I would hope that all those watching who don't have a clue wake up and realize that Steve isn't just doing this for all of us who've experienced them, but to warn the general public how many of these Sasquatches exist and have been seen, but how close they are to every one of us in our everyday lives, in towns, cities, and even inside buildings such as our homes. They're fearless to enter. They are fearless to entering heavily armed military bases, seen walking over fences at nuclear facilities, crossing 4-lane highways in broad daylight, and are quite unafraid at times of being seen by groups of people who are armed. We all have a big problem here, but it's like a bomb has been discovered, and it hasn't gone off yet. Most people in the world don't even see it, but those who have realize just how dangerous it is, and we're scared for all humanity in the face of it. It's not hard to do the math and figure out that there are a lot of these creatures, whatever the heck they are. And one day, there is bound to be a great conflict between them and we humans. When that happens, it's unlikely that most humans will survive the onslaught. In the meantime, it's very clear with their abilities of cloaking. They have the ability to take any humans or animals they want, and they've been doing that for a very long time without the knowledge of most humans. Steve has stepped out to be heard by as many people as possible to give them all a heads up so they don't find themselves blindsided when it becomes apparent that these creatures do exist and they're not here in our best interest. We're not at the top of the food chain, not even with all our guns. For those who can't bear the thought of the blood of innocent people on our hands, we are all speaking up. We can't stay quiet and live with ourselves if we're not warning others, talking about our experiences. For all of us comes with a great risk to our reputations and our livelihoods. As you said, quote, only similar-minded people will understand, end quote. Let's hope those who are watching these videos get the message that this isn't fantasy, and it's not something to laugh at. It's serious. And one day, when these beings decide we are not in charge anymore, it will be game on, and we will lose if we're not prepared. Even those who are prepared know their odds of survival are low when they realize these beings use portals and cloaking, which we nor our military possess. Each year, the human population of our planet gets greater, and so too does that of these beings. Food resources will force a confrontation at some point between humans and us. Between humans and them, I think you meant. These are individuals who range from 800 to well over 1,000 pounds on average. But these are the ones which most of us have seen, and not the biggest ones ever seen. There are vast areas of the West in which even larger ones have been seen. The food for these areas is more sparse than in more inhabited areas where deer roam near cornfields. Humans raise pigs and chickens, which the Sasquatch prefer as much, if not more so, than deer. Our government in the U.S. forced the removal of said livestock when it becomes clear that Sasquatch are on the news being seen around such locations. The positions from which they've been seen watching humans in such places is always clear cut to take away their advantage to launch raids on such farms. So, we've watched as the government cuts the timber on private property, ruining said timber, and they remove said livestock and force the owner to tell the insurance and media that rustlers did it. If the government were to say yes, they exist and stay away from them, the public would negate anything they're told and go after these beings in order to do the right thing to protect humanity and drive back dangerous creatures from harming humans. But this would cause an instant conflict and violent response from the Sasquatch. I and my family have seen them hunting in great packs of upwards of maybe 60 individuals who are adult size. That's individuals ranging in size from 6 to 16 feet, and that's just one group from our area. The subject line of this email is what I want to return to now. You do the math. A very quick calculation of what I've witnessed in the U.S. in different areas, and what I've heard being talked about by others can't be the biggest of what's out there hidden in the vast forests of this continent, from Mexico to Canada. About all I have to go on tells me that these Sasquatch are becoming more and more out of just simple math and knowledge, just as we judge the size of the human population. In the 70s and 80s, we had deer numbers in Ohio explode at times, and then suddenly they were said by the state to be too few. We saw that in our own eyes, and they were tearing the heck out of the area farms where they were running. But as suddenly as they were doing that, they were just gone. All of them were gone. When hunting season begins, they move to farms where they seem to know where they can't be hunted or shot or won't. We're used to all that here, so when we see herds of hundreds of them in broad daylight for days and weeks per usual, and then all of them are just gone, that's weird. So weird, in fact, that it's not reasonable. Neighboring areas don't report them as crossing their lands. No one ever sees them again. The state has been contacted about this, from Ohio Division of Natural Resources to law enforcement, who are also left baffled as to why to keep the tabs on the herds, so to speak, for traffic, for instance. They notice that they are there in great numbers and then just gone. Sure, they inquire as to what ODNR knows, but they don't know anything else. They get reports from all over about the herd sizes from the public and law enforcement, and usually don't go investigate it themselves unless ordered to do so. It ended up on the TV state news, and they were baffled after seeking information from the same sources. Then months later, the federal level said that the deer from our area ended up down in the southeast U.S. Did we believe that? No, we did not. When people refused that explanation, the feds talked through animal experts that thought it might seem strange, that though it might seem strange, it was a new thing. A new thing? When herds of deer in the hundreds move across the land, they leave a trail, and those left no trail. Then this cock and bull story was put out that certain people had a permit from the government who didn't want to reveal they allowed deer to be removed from our state to mix with southern deer. Dad said, we aren't allowed to relocate raccoon, groundhogs, or anything like that due to disease, so they let these guys move hundreds of deer to the deep south. Even he wasn't buying that explanation. Then a news report came out that they properly examined those deer for disease and inoculated them. Dad said, they're saying, quote, and for what purpose did they do that, end quote. Some men convinced the feds that it was a good idea to bring in new blood to mix with the existing deer or something like that. Dad said it was all a bunch of BS. This is about all I recall from that incident, but it went on and on, being countered by hunters who were put out because they'd hoped that the license being raised so high in the past years because of the need for money for the parks would then be put back down so everyone might enjoy the hunting. Hunters have the ability to be heard as well, you know, Steve. Hunters have the ability to be heard, as you well know, Steve. We who fish and hunt have been charged license fees, which have become high to pay for these parks being operated, while the general public pay nothing unless they're camping at them. There's such a thing as taxation without representation, which Dad used to quote. A few were paying it all for the majority who were getting it free, but then we came to the subject of most of these parks being off limits to the taxpayer who paid for them to be maintained. The parks are growing by leaps and bounds, eating up private property by eminent domain, Steve. In Ohio, and no one appears to notice this yet. Why are they adding all these lands to the parks, and why are larger and larger areas being put off limits to the tax-paying hunters, campers, and hikers? The government wants to live more in the cities and are herding us away from the countryside. It's a concerted effort to get control so they can get our guns. People in the country who lost their land to eminent domain all know it. Recreational taxes on land near the parks drives people off their land. No one else wants to buy such land. They only end up losing it to eminent domain, so that law is allowing the state and feds to eat away at private property ownership all over Ohio. I think today we can all agree, after seeing the videos of the corruption within the FBI and the DOJ, that the CIA, also being accused from way back of the same, are all at fault for the downfall of the United States right now. I know the DOD were involved with those labs, so there are now 4 U.S. agencies who are supposed to protect us and the U.S. Constitution, and are now known to be utterly corrupt, pulling the puppet strings to unseat a sitting president. Right now they've been working to puppet master the existing one and keep the other one from running for president in 2024. They'll stop at nothing to break their own nation and sell it to the highest bidder, namely China and Russia and the countries of the Middle East. So, who's at fault for the woes of the world right now, and more importantly, the Sasquatch? Look into the Super Soldier program. I and forest rangers and Dad have all seen what they can do to make a Sasquatch work for them. It only stands to reason that corrupt U.S. three-letter agencies had these creatures at their disposal to go to war with all of us and foreign countries. It will a matter of who's left standing when the dust settles. My money's on the Sasquatch. If you want to share my name for this piece, that's okay. I'm old, I'm in poor health now. Not much left of me, and I'm not scared like I used to be. The public deserves to know the truth. They know quite a lot right now, if you're paying attention. The rest need to hear this message so they will take the F up. How do we all proceed? Well, we do our best to do it together and be on the same page. The 3-letter corrupt agencies are covering their own backsides, and they intend to take all power from our government and thus from all of us. They don't need most of us. They don't want most of us. Have no use for us. This is why there's an Agenda 2030 with the United Nations. They want a one-world government, one-world religion. We have a choice not to be used, and the Sasquatch are victims of the same people too. We will all do what's right for our own. The Sasquatch deal with their own stuff and don't need us. We could use their help. I'm not sure about their motives or their original plans for humans being any different than the way they were with my ancestors, the Shawnee. Quote, "The enemy of the enemy is my friend," end quote. When my enemy is gone, my friend is either going to live in peace with me, or they can become my next enemy. We can seek peace and still not achieve it when the other is greedy and wants it all. As you say, take from this what you will, take it or leave it. It's up to all of you. Only you can decide what's best for you. Thank you for all you've done and continue to do, Steve. Take time to be with your family. It is so precious and a limited resource. Once it's gone forever. Make sure you're not spending too much on all of us and giving away what belongs to your family. God bless you, Steve, and keep you safe. Patty Rowe, Lancaster, Ohio. Okay, Patty, there's another long one with a lot of bold statements there. Tell you what. And again, a lot of listeners are going to be going, get off the crack pipe. And then another bunch of listeners are going to be agreeing across the board. Right? But I'll tell you what, though, for me, there's enough of those incidents that you mentioned in this long email that it includes a lot of people. A lot of different people that allegedly witnessed all of these items that you shared with us. Now, will any of them be in contact with me? I don't know. I hope so. I hope that if this is all legit, there's got to be the same stories handed down throughout other human beings that were there. There has to be. You cannot keep that many people shut up. You can't. So, was anybody else there with these incidents shared with us today? Was anybody out there know of this? There as well? Had a relative, a dad, a brother, an uncle? You were there? I don't know. It's a mouthful. And there's a bunch of other long emails from the same lady that yet have been yet to read. But the truth is, they say the truth is going to be real hard to accept, right? There you go. The wheels are turning. The wheels are always turning. And everybody needs to be heard. We got to hear everything we can hear. And make sure you go with your gut. Take from it what you will or leave it, right? Take from it what you will or leave it. But don't blow a gasket. But anyway, I'm going to get going. I got some more. I think I got about 150 feet of fencing left. But unfortunately, I think about 80 feet is through absolute blackberry bush tangle hell. And it's hotter than hell out there. It's going to suck. But I got to get it done. And then keep the ball rolling. Keep checking items off. Keep the voices being heard. And then I think I'm going to be making plans to go to the States here fairly soon. I'll be back shortly. There's milk.